6 p.m. I'll declare the ordinary council meeting for Tuesday the 25th of August 2026 open. We'll start with the acknowledgement of traditional landowners. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the peace and beauty of this area. Direct and prosper the deliberations of this council for the advancement of the city and the welfare of its people. Amen. We would like to acknowledge the Noongar people who are the traditional custodians of the land, and we'd also like to pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. I ask everyone to stand for the playing of the national anthem.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage of Earth's Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing of Earth's Australia fair.
Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. CEO, record of apologies and leave of absence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 8 elected members in attendance this evening, and we have a leave of absence that is being recorded for Councillor Bruff. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a number of disclosures. They are reported on the screen for everyone to see. The first one is in relation to report number PR018, and the Chief Executive Officer, being myself, has declared that interest in that item. The next one is in relation to report number DIS482. That interest is being declared by Deputy Mayor Councillor Paul Terry, and the nature of the interest is disclosed there for everyone to read. I'll just put it to the meeting. Is there any further disclosures to make this evening? No further disclosures. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. We'll move on to reports of members. Councillor Leonetti.
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Clark.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to just touch on just a couple of things. One is from an emergency management perspective. The LEMAC met again this last week, and we've had a couple of presentations on that. But following on from that was an exercise today at aged care facility. Went very successfully, and again, it was just an example of emergency services, including career and volunteers working together to look after our community. But most importantly, some of our most vulnerable with our seniors. And I also wanted to touch and probably just acknowledge advanced housing again. I'm sure we've all seen in the media the money that has been come from the federal government to assist with the development of student housing in Spencer Street. But again, it's just an example of an organisation that is doing a huge amount for the city and is continuing to do with other developments they've got going around for people in our town.
I have to agree with you that advanced housing are batting well above their league in terms of producing as a not-for-profit in the housing sector in Western Australia, doing an outstanding job. Deputy Mayor Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few things to report on. The first thing we did during the course of the month, we obviously go up to Perth to have a look at a number of leisure and aquatic centres to get some really good insights as to what we should and shouldn't do in relation to any proposed redevelopment of our ALAC centre in the years to come. It was really valuable, and it was a good opportunity for us all to get together and get to know each other a lot better. During the month, also we've had the 1-year anniversary of the opening of the surf reef, and there was a gathering down at the surf reef for that beautiful afternoon. And also the night before, there were a couple of events on at the Surf Club, a focus group event with a couple of researchers doing some research on the value of surf breaks, not just here at Milton Beach, but others around WA. I think might be doing some other stuff around the country. So it'd be interesting to see the research that comes out of that. Also, there was a workshop with community members in the evening where I can't remember the lady's name, who was doing a study over the next 3 years about the value that the surf reef is bringing to Albany and to the community. And there were some really good insights as to how the reef is used, how many people are using it, and the benefits that are already being shown 1 year into the use of the reef. There was a couple of 2026 events during the course of the month with the launch of the In the Making film at the Town Hall, a film directed by Josephine J. About a number of stories from a number of creatives that are based here in Albany. It was really, really interesting to see and hear those stories. Not being part of that creative industry, it's always good to hear about the stories of those that are involved in that industry, and because it's the number of creatives per capita in Albany is one of the highest in the country, if not if not the highest. I think that the mayor has said that previously, which is something we sometimes forget. Also, another event, was the launch of the Voices of the South book, which Councillor McLaren emceed that night. So I'm sure she's probably going to talk about that, so I won't say anything more about that one. It was also good to hear from the government the financial assistance package for the ACCO LPG decommissioning. It was great to finally get to have an idea of what the residents are going to be able to have access to. I think there probably could have been a bit of extra assistance for those that are wanting to electrify, but we'll see if there's anything more forthcoming in the future. And I also did want to touch upon the advanced housing Spencer Street development with the announcement of $4.9 million from the state government's regional housing support program, and another $8 million announced yesterday for the federal government's regional precincts and partnership project. That will give them $13 million to get that development up and going. It's across the road, basically, from where we work, our business is. It'd be great to see that. One of our staff is a student at the Great Southern University Centre, and so the Great Southern University Centre will expand their operation across the road into that centre when it's built. So it'll be another feather, another cap in our bow for Albany to go further on the vision of becoming an education centre. Thank you, Mayor.
Even a feather in our cap. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mayor. As Deputy Mayor Terry mentioned, it was my pleasure. I'm going to start with the thing I liked the most about this month, which was emceeing that event for the launch of the Voices for the South Reflections 2026. You did a great job launching it. Thank you, Mayor. You gave the official speech, but we heard from many of the authors who are published in it. There's 60 authors published in it and over 80 stories. And Roger Guinery is definitely to be commended for this contribution to Albany 2026. And I ask all of you to go to Paperbark and get a copy, because proceeds are going to the hospice. I followed it up later in the month, and I heard some of those same authors speak, reading from the book and reading other poetry at a poetry reading at King River Hall. This was part of the Festivals of Halls, also part of Albany 2026. And it was delightful to hear. Many of them were focused on birds, so it was interesting. We just heard the birds in our nearby forest right here this morning, so birds is topical. I also attended the In the Making launch that the Deputy Mayor mentioned, and congratulations to Josephine J. She's been included in a Women's Film Festival to be held in Fremantle in October, so I hope to get up there and definitely will encourage my friends to go. We are in the Albany Is app that you can download. We were interviewed along with Elder Carol Pedersen. That too was launched in the same week. So if you download that app and listen in to the councillors' reflections, you'll hear us reflecting along with Elder Carol Pedersen. My other favorite thing that I wanted to get in and make sure I had time was the Death Lingo Bingo. Have you ever gone to that event? That is fantastic. Proceeds again go to the hospice. We are the only community hospice in WA, very well supported, but it was a packed out room at Middleton Beach Bowling Club, and had a great time and managed to sing a little as well. Meaningful council duties this month included a tour of the recreation and aquatic centres in Perth, which has helped us to plan that future, and a meeting with the Minister for Regional Development. The federal minister was here with an old friend of mine, Dorinda Cox, who is the senator for WA, who has responsibility for looking after Albany. I also attended the 1-year anniversary for the Surf Reef, which was good not only to chart the progress and why not celebrate the progress after a year? It is continuing to function well, and also learn about the social impact study that's being undertaken. And I understand we'll be getting a report about the results of that. I enjoyed the ACCI Sundowner. That's the Albany Chamber of Commerce. Had a sundowner in the new Albany Motel and Apartments building, so check it out. The rooms are all new and flash, and they have apartments, and it's a very good facility for our tourists and visiting business people. And I also attended the Museum of the Great Southern Curatorial on the cat laws and the updated possum count. I attended a guided bushwalk in Bayonet Head behind Flinders Park Primary School, and I know some of you might walk there. Councillor Stevens lives nearby. Beautiful, beautiful bush, and I saw some of those wildflowers that I have been longing to see in the Albany region that are still in existence there, and some locals were happy to share that with me. Work is continuing on the weed integrated management strategy with a meeting at DBCA, and the group should have a published document ready to go to organizations in the next month. And finally, I want to express my condolences on the passing of high-profile Albany resident, the Honourable Chris Stetler, AOKC. He was the inaugural president of the WA Court of Appeal. He was a very highly respected legal career and lives here in Albany. WA Chief Justice Peter Quinlan said Mr. Stetler was conspicuous for his industry insight and great humanity. My deepest sympathy are extended to Georgina, his sons and grandsons, family and friends.
Thank you. Councillor McKinley.
Nothing this month, sir. Yeah.
Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to touch briefly on the trip to Perth. First of all, I think I did an outstanding job of being the climate control officer, assisting the driver. But look, it was really, I went up there with an open mind, but you have leanings one way or the other. And I've got to say, what I went up there with completely flipped. 3 things that stood out. The other cities were quite happy to talk about what to do and what not to do, what mistakes they made. And my second standout bit was that in that conversation, they said, particularly Swan, I think it was, that you have to involve the workers that actually work in those facilities very early in the piece. Because we heard that the architects, they come up with all this fruity stuff, and we saw that at Armidale, where you take your shoes and socks off and sit in and put your feet in water and read a poem or something, taking up valuable space. And yeah, and they didn't want it, but that was part of their funding. But I think that's very important, because all too often we see in the built form, it doesn't function because someone in an office or on a desktop does it and says it should, but it doesn't. So that was great advice. And we've got to take that forward with the consultants' report as well and get it all together. But the other bit was the use of their wellness centres. And I thought, we're going up there, I thought, because I'm a sauna and a spa fan and steam rooms, and I thought they wouldn't be interested, but completely opposite. Each of them said if they could have more of those rooms, they don't call them hydrotherapy pools, they call them warm pools, because you're below 34 degrees, so it's a whole lot of stuff you don't have to do. But
they all said they were absolute. It was paramount that they had those. So I think that was a big eye opener for me. And just on one side point, we have a lot of flack about not enough parking at ALAC on Saturday morning. The big new leisure centre at Alkimos, I think it was 301 parks. We've got over 700 here. So, you know, I think the Mayor might have said on the way back, we just have to look at the scheduling. Not everyone can play their sport at North Road, the complex, at 8:30 on a Saturday morning. So all in all, it was a great trip, and I really think there should be maybe 1 or 2 a year of these, because I've certainly learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone that participated is the same. I've just got to polish up my pool skills.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't reiterate everything else that the other councillors have said, and hopefully next month we'll go the other way, so I can go first, so don't steal my thunder. But I would like just to acknowledge the passing of the CEO of Surfing WA, Mark Lane. I had the privilege of working with Mark with the Surf Reef project when I was a member for Albany, and I know the Mayor had a lot to do with him too. And there's many people that come to do projects in our community, and to be such a passionate leader of a sporting association. It's not very often that you get to meet someone like him and championing a project in our region, and he certainly did that. So really, on behalf of the Albany board riders, I know a lot of them, Peter Bolt, were mates with him, and so that's a sad loss to the community. So pay respects on behalf of the Albany community to his family and the surfing community across WA. I just wanted to acknowledge the live at the town hall and to the staff. I think, Nathan, I don't think we really acknowledge the stuff that goes on behind the scenes with the staff to program the live at the town hall, to have Baker Boy in Albany, and to have Ricky Neal Jr., a local Albany lad, back in town to open that event on the weekend. I didn't get to it, but I think when you see the pictures and the different people that start to attend these events, it's really hitting a mark with some of the community in that space. And also to acknowledge the YAC advisory group that are here today. Would love to see you at more council meetings, but I know you're all very busy. But just to acknowledge the work that you do behind the scenes, attending meetings, advocating for youth in the Great Southern and in Albany, doesn't go unnoticed. And I look forward to making sure that your voices are elevated around this chamber, and I look forward to, in a few years to come, you all running for council and being part of the conversation, because you are the next generation, and we really do appreciate having your voices and your passion. And yeah, so thanks for coming tonight. We look forward to hearing your contribution, but I think as councillors, we've all got to know you a bit better over the last few months, and we want to continue that relationship because it's really vital.
Thanks very much. Okay, that concludes reports of members. We'll move on to public question time. We all know the drill. We've got 5 people want to talk. The Youth Advisory Group we won't get you to speak in public question time. We'll make that part of the general meeting. We'll bring that forward and suspend standing orders. So if you know the drill, if you're speaking to an item, you get first dibs. So we'll do that. Traffic light system, 4 minutes. The green light is there for 3 minutes and 30. The amber light is for the last 30 seconds. When the light goes red, we'll ask you to conclude your presentation if you're still going. I'd also ask you to pay attention to the expected standard behaviour as you present to council, and provide your name and the item you're speaking to, particularly if it's an item on the agenda. So, Rod Sawyer. Rod?
Is it on? Sorry about that. I wouldn't think I'd be first up. Rod Sawyer of Yakamaya. I would like to thank the council, the staff and the consultant for all the hard work they put into finalising the biodiversity strategy. It's very important that Albany Albany's natural biodiversity is maintained and protected for future generations. That's all the young people, I hope. And I look forward to seeing it adopted by Council tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. That might be nearly the shortest presentation you've ever given us, Rod. I'm sure there will be others. Professor Stephen Hopper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, Executive, I wanted to commend the Council on the conduct of investigation associated with the biodiversity strategy. I think we are all blessed in living in a place that is truly an international hotspot, and one of which we can be very proud in terms of the richness of the fauna and the flora. And I commend the opportunity given to me to engage with staff at late notice to offer some thoughts on more a way forward than the present document. And I just wanted to share that I thought the revisions to the strategy made sense, and the hard work is ahead of us if we're going to really make an impression on this. And I sincerely hope that all councillors will put their goodwill behind us doing a world-class job. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlotte McIntyre. You can, Elizabeth, if you want to come forward.
Hi. Liz Adamson, Albany, Treasurer, Friends of the Stidwell Bridle Trail. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. Our chair has sent you all a video which shows the incident that Julie and I experienced recently. This type of incident introduces a fear factor that shouldn't be part of any sporting or recreational activity. I'm unaware of any councillors or senior staff who are equestrians, so none of you seem to understand the possible reactions of horses. My other horse is an old racehorse that I've been taking out on the trail for nearly 20 years. The fight or flight response still always defaults to flight. It's amazing how an animal that is supposedly of pensioner age has the agility to turn 180 degrees in milliseconds, leaving me either flat on my back or trying to bring 500 kilograms of terrified beast back under control. People generally have rational thought processes, but I expect all of you would jump involuntarily when suddenly hearing a rustling sound when on a bush-lined pathway at night. This is the same survival instinct. Being left alone in the middle of nowhere with a life-threatening injury is something that is now constantly on my mind. I acknowledge that horse riding has risks, as do all sports, road cycling, mountain biking, football, etc. But there are constant efforts to ensure these are kept as safe as possible through planning, maintenance, communication, and laws or rules that are regularly enforced. The best analogy I can think of that many of you should be able to relate to is having a swing between the flags at the beach and worrying about being run down by a jet ski. There are natural risks to swimming in the ocean, but it's unthinkable that you would need to worry about a motorised craft on top of these risks, especially swimming in a designated area, just like our bridle trail is designated. You would also rightly expect consequences for this sort of dangerous behaviour. I know that working for the city or being a councillor means dealing with a lot of complaints, even harassment and abuse, which is definitely not acceptable. It's why many good candidates don't apply. I don't want to constantly complain to the city, but I've made several reports of incidents where offenders could be identified, and I haven't had a response to any of these. It makes me feel frustrated and at times despairing about what appears to be a total lack of concern about our safety. The Stidwell Bridle Trail determination from December 2023 says, A change management plan will be developed to support implementation, emphasising effective communication, education and enforcement. I feel the City of Albany has not currently met expectations on this. There is much more work to be done on public messaging, a meaningful compliance response, and continued targeted infrastructure works. The Friends are working and will continue to work with the city staff to make all this happen. I would like to acknowledge some of what is probably unknown help that we've had along the way. Councillor Stevens for securing funds for surveillance cameras and the GoPro while she was the local MLA, and the tip staff at the waste facility who went above and beyond to recover our camera when it was stolen. The SBT determination was a great and necessary step, but it needs follow-up by all involved to be safer out there for all sports enthusiasts, not just the ones that have a high profile. Thank you.
Thank you. I will say in the city's defence that over the last 4 or 5 years we've put a lot of work into that Stibwell Bridle Trail, and we've put a lot of work in with the Bridle Trail group. So I don't think we've been absent in terms of, or we are certainly cognizant of what issues you face in terms of safety, and there have been times when our rangers have been out there, and essentially at times this becomes a police matter as well, as you're well aware. Thank you. Charlotte McIntyre.
Charlotte McIntyre Robinson. Hopefully you'll have seen the short video that I circulated through the council liaison last week. It shows 2 examples of courageous riders who, despite being in fear of coming off their horses in the middle of nowhere, stand their ground to prevent unauthorised motorbikes from going deeper into the Sandpatch Reserve. I can tell you that my horse would have thrown me off and run for the hills long before the noisy bikes even came into view. These women were practising their recreation legally and without harming anyone else. The motorbike riders had breached well signposted barriers to access the designated bridle trail, knowing full well they were likely to encounter horse riders. While the Friends Committee continues to advocate and negotiate for safety to be treated as a genuine priority, the broader equestrian community is silent in their disappointment. These are the ratepayers you will never hear from, the ones who vanish off the radar without ever troubling a staff member or a councillor. The risk of being killed or seriously injured is currently too great for many riders, and they're despairing of ever being able to use the bridle trail. Just like users of any other city-managed facility, surely these riders deserve their safety to be considered. This financial year, the 3 years funding for capital infrastructure on the Stibble Bridle Trail comes to an end. The Friends worked with the city to design barrier fencing and signage. We identified the hotspots and are project managing the installation works. And we have been somewhat successful in deterring a large cohort of unauthorised vehicles, the ones that would have complied with the law anyway. But those that persist are well aware that they're not meant to be there. They go to great lengths to get in. They ram gates, cut chains, and fell native vegetation in order to get around our fences. They are increasingly aggressive and resolute that the bush is theirs to use as they please. This is the messy middle of getting this problem under control. It was always going to get worse before it was fixed. The Friends have shown that we can work with the city to make a real difference to the safety and environmental risks posed by these vehicles, exactly as the Treadwell report intended us to. But we need a commitment to keep going. If we stop now, things will go right back to how they were. We have a plan for the continued implementation of measures to achieve success. We call upon the Council to set aside capital for further infrastructure in the next budget and prioritise resources to properly address our calls for protection. One councillor, who at least responded to our video where no others did, advised us not to confront the motorbike riders because it puts our safety at risk. In other words, the fault rests with us for being confrontational, rather than the people who deliberately trespassed, refused to leave and then argued. Councillors, we invite you not to blame the victims, not to see us as the problem, but instead to see us as the allies who are working so hard to be part of the solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlotte. I would say, in defence of that councillor's response, is concern for your safety, and there are processes. And I would urge caution in that circumstance myself as well. We're not victim. You don't become the target of our displeasure. We're still not happy with that. There is, in terms of the 3-year funding cycle that comes to a conclusion, no decision of council that says that that is the end of our commitment to the Stidwell Bridle Trail. It's simply the end of that cycle, and that is up for some consideration and negotiation. But in terms of confronting people, I'd urge you rather to make phone calls to authorities rather than put yourself in that position. But obviously, in the heat of the battle, I guess I understand why that's happening. But I think it's actually good advice. Thank you. That concludes. Is there anyone else from the public gallery who wishes to address council? No. Thank you. That concludes public question times. There's applications for leave. I'm going to make a request for leave. Given that I anticipated that Fremantle might make the grand final, I don't want to be in Australia. So I'm going to request leave from the 18th of September to the 5th of October. Can I have someone move that, please? Eagle supporters, Councillor Sutton, Councillor Clark, Councillor Sutton, Councillor Clark. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
Thank you. Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make an application as well. It's my first holiday since before COVID, so I'm looking forward to a few days in Indonesia, Bali. So I'll be absent from about the 14th until the end of the month, next month. That's okay. Thank you.
Give us some dates, please.
14th to the 30 days of September. 14th to the 30th. Thank you. Yeah.
30 days in September.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
14th to the 30th. Someone to move that, please. Councillor Stevens, Councillor McKinley. Anyone want to speak against that? All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
Anyone else? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I've booked to travel to Japan in October, so I'd seek leave from about the 4th of October to about the 26th of October.
4th of October to the 26th of October?
Yes.
So that will get you to the September council meeting, won't it?
Yeah, it should, but I believe I might be back for that.
No, the September.
Oh, sorry.
September, October. So you'll be here for the September meeting. Should you apply for it then? Okay, so you're going to apply for that now. Someone to move that. Councillor Sutton, Councillor Leonetti to second. Anyone wish to object? I object to you going to Japan. No, I'm not. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor McLaren.
I'm going away too, but I'm not requesting leave. I will be away from the country from after our September meeting till just before our October meeting. I'm just letting you guys know, but I will still be here for all the OCMs.
Well, the requirement for leave is that if you're not attending an OCM, that's the only requirement.
Which is why
but we may as well let's put the dates in so we know. We don't need it now.
I don't need to, but I just wanted to know that if there's anything that happens during my trip, I'll zoom in.
Okay, thank you. Was it the 27th of October, Councillor Clark? 26th? Very good. Anyone else? Right, we should have a quorum. We'll move on. Petitions and deputations, there are none. Draft motion before you is confirmation of minutes is that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Tuesday 28th of July 2026 as previously distributed be confirmed as a true and accurate record of proceedings. Someone to move. Councillor McKinley, Councillor Clark. Councillor McKinley? Councillor Clark. Anyone speaking against? No? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
There are no presentations. There's no unresolved business from previous meetings. We're going to move on to reports. I'm going to ask if there are no objections, that we bring the climate change declaration, which the Youth Advisory Council want to talk to us about. If we can bring that as bring that item forward as a report. No objections. Thank you. Can I have the Youth Advisory Council would also like to address the council, so I'm going to ask if we would suspend standing orders. Can I have someone move that we suspend standing orders? Councillor McLaren, Councillor Stevens. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
Okay. So this is an opportunity for the Youth Advisory Group to come forward to the microphone, speak. If you do your presentation, and then if there are questions that council wish to ask you from there, we'll allow to be in committee essentially, so that we can ask and have a discussion, clarify anything we need to know, and then we'll come back out from standing orders and deal with the item. So if you're addressing council even here, I think let's follow the procedure. Introduce yourself and then go ahead with your presentation, Evelyn.
Hi, my name is Evelyn and I've been part of the YAC for just over a year. I would like to thank the Mayor and councillors for allowing us to present this item. We have been working on the Climate Action Declarations review on behalf of the community in Albany. The council has done some admirable things in this field, including their work on FOGO, the corporate energy plan to transition the city's owned and operated assets to 100% renewable energy sources by 2030, and the City of Albany's bike plan. The Climate Action Declaration is important to me because it allows us to plan and prepare for the future, for our children and our children's children and so on, to live in a place where the least of their worries are about the environment. Climate change is our problem, and as part of the YAC, we are glad that the City of Albany acknowledges its importance, and we hope they will adopt and accept our changes to the Climate Action Declaration. So, without further ado, I hand you over to Naomi to kick us off.
Good evening, Council. My name is Naomi, my pronouns are she, her, and I've been on the YAC for 4 years. The Climate Action Declaration renewal was one of my first projects with the YAC in 2023, and I'm excited to continue through with it. The first proposed change to the Climate Action Declaration is adding the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, known as the SDGs, to the point of the science that underpins climate change. The SDGs are 17 global objectives adopted by the UN, aiming to end poverty, protect the planet, and achieve equality for all. Australia signed this agreement when they were released in 2012, 14 years ago. The current science that is stated on the document is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, Key Areas of Influence. To be completely honest with you, before joining the YAC, I had no idea what these were. But the United Nations SDGs, we were all taught them with schools. Some kids learnt the song to learn them all. The United Nations SDGs are more accessible and more well-known. This declaration was driven by young people, so make it easier for us to understand. In the City of Albany Council Plan, the second pillar is environment. Within the environment section, the plan already references the United Nations SDGs, as the city aims to, and I quote, balance responding to these environmental challenges with broader guidance of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The city already recognises the SDGs by adding them to the Climate Action Declaration. We encourage cohesiveness and making the plan more young people friendly. I'll now pass on to Charlie.
Good evening, Mayor and elected members. My name is Charlie and I've been on the YAC for 4 years. And like Naomi, the Climate Action Declaration was one of my first projects on being on the YAC. Following the proposed change Naomi mentioned, Our second proposed change is to push the revision of the declaration from every 2 years to 5 years. Extending the revision of the declaration to 5 years allows for greater focus on improving and achieving our actions rather than reviewing and updating the declaration. This follows with the acknowledgement of climate change isn't something instant, it's something that's continuous and a long-term problem. Following in the 2 years, funding, resources, projects and results often are packed and hard to fit within the small time frame. 5 years allows for more room and implementation and measurement of action. The 5 years also helps avoid clashing of the revision during council elections, which the current 2-year plan has done that multiple times. And that's why the revision of the declaration best fits for the revision for 5 years. Our third proposed change is moving the actions listed in the declaration. Currently, the declaration holds actions for the city, which is limited and broad. Creating a separate action plan from the declaration will allow for easier changes, more depth actions, and easier reporting. The actions will follow what is existing in the current city plans and policies, including the overarching city council plan, corporate power plan, and the water-wise strategy. Reporting the action plan will be completed annually, and elected members will be able to track progress and celebrate milestones along with the YAC, followed by the actions. Following this, actions can be added or modified when needed without impacting the declaration. Thank you for your time and have a good night.
Hello, councillors and mayor. I'm Jack, keen student who joined YACS about late February for the chance to be involved in the climate declaration review, as I'm very into the environment and how we can protect it for future generations. So these changes provide a better way for YAC and the community to get more from the declaration in the years between reviews. We would like to see council approve this reviewed declaration as per the officer's recommendations. So, thank you.
Thanks for a well-coordinated presentation. Are there any questions of the elected members of the Youth Advisory Group? I get off scot-free. Very good. And obviously, climate action is now legislated in the Local Government Act. So having this driven by youth is fantastic. Wonderful to see you here and presenting the youth of Albany's point of view on this topic and the work that you've done. Okay, so if there are no questions and there's no discussion, we'll come out from behind closed doors. Someone to move, we'll come out. Thank you, Councillor Sutton, Councillor McLaren. Pardon? Let's start again. Let's resume standing orders. Councillor Sutton, Councillor McLaren. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
Okay. So as I discussed, we'll go to CCS 816, Climate Action Declaration. The recommendation is that the Council adopt the revised City of Albany Climate Change Action Declaration. Someone to move that, please. Councillor McLaren. No surprise. The seconder, Councillor Stevens. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mayor. I wholeheartedly support this recommendation that Council adopt the revised City of Albany Climate Change Action Declaration. When I was first elected, along with yourself, in 2023, we had this on the agenda, and so that gave us an opportunity to reflect carefully and for quite a while on the role of YAC and the challenges that it posed for us as a council to keep up to date with climate change action. I must say that the best thing about this whole process has been meeting actually with the YAC and hearing from you individually about exactly why this declaration is important to you, and hearing the arguments about the Sustainable Development Goals and why that's a good way to track us against other councils as well across the world. So it is a global problem, and it's important that here in Albany we are initiating a local solution for a global problem. And as the mayor said, we are required to do this now under the amendments to the Local Government Act, which require us to take some action for climate change and to prepare our community in a resilient fashion so that we can cope with the changes that are predicted to occur. Now, the changes that you've just heard outlined, I couldn't do it any better than the young people have done. But basically, we have since the 2023, since I was elected, initiated a climate action dashboard. And I appreciated the fact that the Youth Advisory Council have said, you know, we want that reporting all the time. We want to know when you've done something. We want to check it on the dashboard. It's a great tool. Let's use it. Let's use it as an accountability measure. And that's a great opportunity to do that. They've also pointed to the Waterwise strategy, which we recently passed. And the Waterwise strategy also has climate action in it. So it's not an additional task for us to do. It's alongside business as usual. And what I found is the most important policy document that we have, the Corporate Power Plan, which actually charts our progress against the emissions reductions that we need to take. So they've also recognized that policy already exists. And they've said, look, instead of reporting along this declaration, what I'd like you to do is give us an annual action report against all the actions you already do as a council. So it means it's no extra work for us, and it means that we're accountable to the targets that they're setting for us, which is to basically implement the plans that we've set out for ourselves and actually report on them. So I think it's a great amendment. It simplifies it. I was arguing against the 5 years. I thought maybe we should do it more regularly, but they stuck to their guns and said 5 years is better because it gets us away from that election cycle. It makes it non-political. It's business as usual, and that's a good step forward too. So, councillors, the report before you has some of the information that was gleaned during this process of review, and congratulations to the team, the community development team, the youth community officer, and also manager Tammy Flett for marshalling the Youth Advisory Council. I encourage you to pass this declaration as amended, and if there are any if there's opposition for it, I'm prepared to discuss that.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. I was actually on council back in 2019 when the young people of Albany back then marched up York Street. So I think this isn't just something that happened in 2023 and has been led by the youth of the City of Albany for many, many years. So I want to acknowledge the young people in the room who continue to champion this cause, but also to acknowledge the people that have come before you. People like Bridget Mason. I remember she was here. And at the time, we had a bit of a different mayor and a different council, so it has been a journey to get to this place. But I think it's great that we have a continued review, and I do support the 5 years with all of the comments that Charlie's made around that, and look forward to supporting it into the future.
Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor McKinley.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and great work by Yak. I do enjoy the environment as well. I am a supporter of the environment, but I'm not a believer in climate change. I'm sorry, but I'll give you my reasons. I'll run down a couple of examples. Going back in history, by the early 2000s, they predicted that the Arctic would be ice-free by 2013. Didn't happen. In 2018, they predicted by 2018 the Maldives would be completely underwater. Still above water, and there's still people holidaying over there. So it's still there. In 2005, not that long ago, it's only 21 years ago, they predicted that Manhattan would be completely underwater by 2015. and in Europe they predicted the end of snow. So there's a couple of examples there. It used to be called global warming. They changed the name to climate change because it didn't suit the agenda. Another thing that comes up as well, it brings in regulations which impact major developments and extra costs and delays in what we're doing around Albany as well. And also, for the youth of today, looking at buying a house for the future, it increased housing costs as well. So all this impact on housing and housing costs, climate change regulations increase your costs. So you have to have a look at that as well. You know, I'm 56 years old now, and in my observations through my life, all I've seen is observations around. Yeah, that's probably a fine from Robbie over there. 56 years old, and I have not seen any problems with the environment in my life. I've always been around the ocean, fishing, camping, a lover of the environment, and all I've seen is natural variations in temperatures. I remember growing up, we used to have heat runs of about 40 odd degrees for about a week, and now we get a couple of days of 40. The media is making out like it's a big heat wave. Not when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. It was hot. It was hot. So if anything, it's cooled. So all I'm asking for the youth of today is that you experience things for yourself. You grow up and you witness things for yourself. A lot of it's driven by the media these days. The media are a big contributor of what we're advised and what we should believe. But believe it when you see it yourself. That's all I'm saying. And I'm sure we'll have a right of reply very shortly. And there will be probably a mention of all the scientific research which has been conducted. And I'm sure they have. But if you're the ones that fund that research, you will get the exact answers that you're chasing. So that's my say, and hopefully you'll vote the way you see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for it? The motion? Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, for the motion. I'll give you the reason why, Councillor McKinley. Look, I'm not convinced about climate change like my counterpart. My pet hate with the environment, if you like, is where we're stopped, not allowed to use Coles and Woolies bags. And I agree with that totally. But every piece of meat you buy, you need a chainsaw to get it out of the plastic. You know, a lot of your fruit now is wrapped. But I don't think I'm here tonight for my opinion. And as Councillor McKinley said, look at the science, and science should be tested and debated all the time. And with this, the reason I'm voting for it, even though I'm not convinced of the global warming, is that it's so important for the younger generation to actually take an interest, put a lot of hard work into it, and then if I was to vote against it, come here, what does that say to future generations and these people? Going forward with this, they can look at the science as it evolves either way and make adjustments and decisions. But to me, the most important part of tonight, this motion, is to reward and acknowledge the effort put in by the YAC. I was actually the council rep on the when I first got on council on YAC and took 4 of them up to Perth for the Drug Action Week, and it was fantastic. Had some good leaders there. Well done. Keep it up. Keep challenging. Thank you.
Any speakers against? Councillor Leonetti.
Well, it's a bit of both, I suppose, really. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm with Craig. I think it's a cost.
Councillor
Sorry.
refers to the councillor by his title.
Councillor McKinley, sorry. I agree it's a cost. I do see Councillor Sutton's comment with the kids, and it's great that the young ones are getting involved, but I don't believe, climate changes every day, guys. I'm sorry, but it's going to change, it's going to revolve, things are going to happen. I mean, We've got climate change, we've got windmills. Great thing. Knock down our coastline for a windmill. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm fully against it and I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Anyone wish to speak for? Deputy Mayor Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I'd just like to thank the YAC for coming and being involved in this the third version of the climate change action declaration. I think it's really important that we listen to our youth, because despite some of the things that Councillor McKinley pulled up, they were probably some fairly wild claims in the 90s and early 2000s as to what could happen. But there has been irrefutable evidence of global warming, sea level rising over the last 50, 60 years. The amount of carbon in the atmosphere has gone up exponentially since the start of the last century, to the point where it's over 400 parts per million in the atmosphere today. This summer, in the northern summer in Europe, they're having their hottest year ever. I think I read something in the last few days that across the globe for this year is the warmest year on record, and I think it's going to be about 1.6 degrees above early 1900 levels. Something has to be driving that. With the extra amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, we've all learned about, and kids have learned about this in school, about the greenhouse effect. And it's not just carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, it's also methane gas. I was reading something the other day about the permafrost in the Arctic. That is defrosting, and with the extra methane that goes into the atmosphere as a result of that permafrost defrosting, will exacerbate any climate change happening in the future. There's also been huge big fires in Canada earlier in the year, and there's a super El Nino effect happening in the Pacific Ocean at the moment, which could translate into a much drier summer on the East Coast. And the last time there was a super El Nino event in 1983, there were some big significant bushfires in Victoria, Ash Wednesday, for those of us who were around back then. So, you know, yeah, it would be not a very good reflection on us if we didn't listen to our youth and also acknowledge the science that the climate is changing. Here in WA, in the southwest corner, we are down about 25-30% of rainfall compared to historical levels since about the 1980s. And that's having an effect on our groundwater replenishment. So because there's not so much groundwater being replenished, we're having to have a desal plant, and that's going to have an effect on the environment, the marine environment at Nanaruk. So, you know, we need to do these things, we need to acknowledge it, and we need to take action to mitigate the effects that we are having on the global climate. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak for or against? No? All right, Councillor McLaren, you have right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the participation in the debate and the opportunity to respond to some of the concerns that have been raised. But it does bring to mind, and you know, we start all of our meetings with a prayer. And there is a prayer that comes to mind at this point in time, which is basically this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That encapsulates the climate change debate. This morning, I posted on my Facebook page an article by a famous Albany author, Tim Winton. He was 2 years ahead of me at Ashes, and I've never caught up with him, but he's a great man of great wisdom, and his words in today's Guardian, or this week's Guardian, go in part. There are those who have come to think of global heating as an inevitable fact, a tragedy, if you will. And there are some who have been convinced it isn't real, not a fact at all. These sufferers have been poorly served, for instead of being ministered to humanely and conscientiously, they have been at the mercy of quacks and carpetbaggers. What we are all experiencing is not a mystery ailment, neither is it inevitable. And that's important, because we need to have the courage to make those changes. And it sure as hell is no tragedy. It is an outrage. Only those who have been coached into crippling delusion can continue to deny the very heat that torments them. They are victims of gross malpractice. And this is condemnation to our media sources, which are tempering the information that we get. And he was just making a plea about The Guardian being one good source. But I just wanted to add a couple of things from my experience. And,
Okay,
and they
now
are this.
I am going to caution you here that you are
Yes.
wandering into new territory here. The idea of right of reply is rebuttal,
Yes.
not introduction of new material.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Thank
you. You were right on the verge there.
Skating. Well, I like to skate on the verge. Councillor McKinley, the Arctic ice has dropped by 40% since 1978. My source is NASA. If you don't trust NASA, I don't know what to tell you. Tuvalu. Now, you mentioned the Maldives. There are predictions that you pointed to, and I think it's fair to say climate science has emerged since we grew up. You know, since we went to school, nobody talked about it. But that science has been emerging, and we have to pay attention to the lessons as they're learned. And thank goodness they update their learnings. So the other learning that you mentioned was something about the Maldives disappearing underwater. Well, I personally met the Prime Minister of Tuvalu in Canberra at a conference, and his island is sinking. And he is being bailed out by the people of New Zealand, who are agreeing to take them as migrants because, as a country, they are losing land that they can live on to the sea. So there's evidence for you. Somebody else said they upheld the effort by Yako, and I appreciate that, Councillor Sutton. And it is important to acknowledge that young people should be respected, but they also, in my view, shouldn't be dismissed as, not knowing what they're talking about, because actually they do know what they're talking about. And this is their declaration, which you rightly acknowledged. And thank you to Deputy Mayor Terry for mentioning the scientific facts most recently to our disposal. But the point is that this is their declaration, and respecting it and respecting their knowledge is what I'm asking us to do in supporting this motion today.
Point of order, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for the respectful debate. Quite divided opinions here. That's the whole point of democracy. But it is very important that you hold the decorum in the chamber. So thank you. I'm now going to put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against?
Carried 6-2 against Councillor McKinley and Councillor Leonetti.
That concludes what you're probably interested in as a youth advisory group. So you're very welcome to leave. We won't be insulted. We've got school tomorrow. Thanks for attending. Okay, we'll move to CCS 795, which has been on the books for a number of months. It's the Albany Agricultural Society Service Level Agreement for the Albany Show. We have Councillor Bruff on leave now, and this was left in abeyance as it was laid on the table as an amendment. Councillor Clark was the seconder, so I'm going to invite Councillor Clark. I'll read this and then ask Councillor Clark to move it, and then I'll look for a seconder. And I think there might be some variation to point C with some clarification from the staff. So The committee recommendation, which is the amendment that was before us at the time, was that the council authorise the CEO to renew the service level agreement with the Albany Agricultural Society to support the Albany show for a period of 3 years, inclusive of the following financial support. A, annual cash sponsorship of $30,000, and B, in-kind services at a cap value of $22,000 per annum, reviewed annually through the city's budget processes, with any proposed increase to the cap requiring council approval. And C, sponsorship recognition commensurate with the city's status as a major sponsor, including complimentary trade space and entry passes for the city staff attending in connection with that trade space, to be confirmed in the SLA prior to execution. And finally, 2, to note that any material variation to the financial value or scope of the SLA during the term will be subject to council approval. Councillor Clark, are you happy to move that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that, please.
Polly?
Yes, I would like to.
Okay, and a seconder, please. Councillor Stevens. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I would like to make an
Standing,
amendment.
please.
Sorry?
Stand.
Oh, sorry. I would like to make an amendment to point C. Effectively, the proposed amendment, the recognition of the commensurate with the city status as a major sponsor, including 6 trade spaces, and the entry passes for that city staff attending in connection with those trade spaces.
All right, let's try and capture that. Ms. Clark, if we can.
You want to repeat that?
Okay. Take out complimentary.
And entry passes for city staff attending in connection with those trade spaces.
With those 6?
Yeah, 6 trade spaces. I know I didn't specifically say that, but if you wish to make that amendment, I'm happy with that.
Is that what you want or not?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay. Does that capture what you wanted to amend?
Yes, it is. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Take a seat. But this is now an amendment. Councillor Stevens, could you prepare to second that? All right, we'll make that the that's the live live motion now. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I think in this instance we've reached a point. Whilst I'm talking on behalf of Councillor Bruff, I think that the intent of what he raised is in the essence of what we've got here with this motion, and I think with the work that's been done by council staff, particularly with Director Watson, has provided us this information that I think is agreeable to all parties involved. So I think on that case, I think it's a reasonable way forward. Thank you.
Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to acknowledge the Ag Society who have put on the show for many, many years, and it's something that I know I enjoyed going to as a kid, and I know that my kids now enjoy going, and it's something that's such an iconic thing for the City of Albany. So I do want to acknowledge the incredible work that does go on from a number and all of the volunteers. I do think we have taken some time with this, and I respect that it's been probably a little bit frustrating for the Ag Society. But we are using ratepayers' money, and times do change. But I think this is a really good balance. It still has the service level agreement, which has some flexibility in it as well, so that the show has the continuity for the next 3 years to know what that looks like. But also knowing that I think we highly respect what they do, and this relationship will continue for many, many years to come. And I think Nathan and the team who have been able to negotiate to bring this to the city, and I urge all councillors to support this because the show is coming very soon.
Thank you. Anyone speaking against? Councillor Leonetti.
Thank you, Chair. This ain't really against the show getting the funds. This is against this all up, just the policy, what we've got in front of us here. I mean, we've got a 30,000 for 3 years. Okay, 6 trade spaces plus entrance. which I've roughly worked out is $5,000 to get in. That's for the city's going to get free. So that drops back to 25,000, which is what they were at already. I mean, this is the biggest draw card on our city's map every year for 25 grand. Nathan has put up an ad for 150,000 policies. People are going to get 20,000 here, there. This is our biggest card. There's no inflation on the 30 grand for cost. The 22,000 is still going to be there. So the 6 spaces in that, they're not gaining anything. I know they've got to accept it. But for myself, I'm very disappointed. I reckon they should have got a better deal, and I've said that before. I mean, we had talk about Sideshow Alley taking money up the highway. Well, God, we give away every month 100,000 up the highway every time we vote on accounts for payments. Not a problem. So come on, guys. We should be doing better than this. So I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
Clarification, the cap value of 22,000 per annum, you are incorrect. It is reviewed annually, and that has obviously, if it's being reviewed, potential to improve. Anyone wishing to speak for or against? Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I acknowledge Councillor Nettie. It's a big gig, and that's why I think Councillor Bruff's intention was to not go overboard and bring it in line with other periods of service level agreements. And it was slated for 5 years. We've got it back to 3 years, which is consistent, and the capped value per annum. Now, it is a big show, but we've still got to do our work to make sure it's viable. And I don't know how many of the discussions you missed out on, but this was discussed at length several times at council, and we've arrived at this space. And I think this space is good. The amendment for 6 trade spaces and the entry pass limit, because I think we're heading down the path of unlimited. This is a great outcome for everyone. We've still got to do our due diligence, Councillor Leonetti, to make sure that this stacks up. And I'm very, very happy with it, and I hope everyone votes for it. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak against? You're welcome to speak for, if that's the case. Councillor McLaren.
I'll just briefly speak for, because I moved to postpone this the first time because we were amending it on the floor, and I just want to say I appreciate the staff sitting down again to come to this agreement, and if they've come to a mutual agreement, then I think it's our duty to support it.
Is that a question that you want clarification on?
No.
No? That we've met mutual agreement? No?
Well, okay. Now that you've opened it up, is there mutual agreement?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So after this item was originally deferred, we certainly did meet with representatives from the Agricultural Society to discuss the proposed amendments, and I'm confident that the amendment before you this evening is consistent with those discussions and negotiations. The President of the Agricultural Society, Erica Henderson, who is in the audience this evening, did write to myself, and I distributed that to all elected members with the concern around the unlimited trade space, and the offer from the Agricultural Society was for 6 complementary trade spaces with the equivalent to entry passes per trade space, and the value of that is consistent with the discount, the value of the discount that the Agricultural Society provided to the city last year. So overall, I'm confident that the recommendation here this evening reflects the discussions that have been had, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak for or against? Before we go to write a reply, Councillor Leonetti, it looks unlikely that this will be lost, but if it is lost, we are back in the same space if you don't foreshadow an amendment. No? Okay. Righto. Yep. Well, we've got right a reply now for Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the key thing out of this is that it has been something that's been agreed upon by both parties. It's fiscally responsible, and from the perspective of ensuring the show goes ahead, that's what we've achieved here. I think, as a general outcome, it's the most positive way forward. Thanks.
Thank you. That closes debate. We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against?
Carried 7-1 against Councillor Leonetti.
That becomes a substantive motion, I'll assume. Same mover, same seconder. Councillor Clark, you want to move the substantial motion?
Yes, sir. If I could move that.
Thank you. Councillor Stephen, you're prepared to second that? I'm going to invite you to debate if you require. Councillor Stevens, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Does anyone wish to speak against? No, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
Thank you. CCS 813, the monthly financial report. The recommendation is that the monthly financial report for the period ending 30th of June 2026 be received. Someone to move? Councillor Clark. Deputy Mayor Terry. Councillor Clark. Deputy Mayor Terry. Anyone speaking against? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
CCS 814, list of accounts. The committee recommendation is that the list of accounts authorised for payment under delegated authority to the Chief Executive Officer for the period ending 30th of June 2026 totalling $11,122,531.82 be received. Somebody to move that, please. Councillor Sutton, Councillor Clark, Councillor Sutton, Councillor Clark. Anyone speaking against? Put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against?
Carried 7-1 against Councillor Leonetti.
CCS 815, Delegated Authority Reports. The recommendation is that the Delegated Authority Reports 16th of June 2026 to 15th of July 2026 be received. Someone to move. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Terry. Seconder, Councillor McKinley. Deputy Mayor Terry. Councillor McKinley. Anyone speaking against? No, put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
We've dealt with CCS 816. We'll go to 817. CCS 817 is, the recommendation is that the City of Albany Communications and Engagement Strategy Progress Report for Quarter 2 2026 and its endorsement by the Communications and Engagement Advisory Group be noted. Someone to move that, please. Councillor McLaren. Councillor Stevens. Councillor McLaren.
Just to thank because this is one of those advisory groups where we do have several community members who participate, and just to acknowledge their work in this area and all the staff that are reporting regularly. We're getting more and more reports about the consultation that's occurring, and we had a big report on how to explain the rates and where your rates go. A lot of work is being done in that to be able to describe it visually. It's a great opportunity, I think, and other councillors who have that opportunity to come to those meetings is a great opportunity to do some real good work for the community. So I move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it is one of the more I say engaging groups to sit on, but I think it is really important, and I do think it'd be nice if we can extend the invitation to other councillors to attend maybe in the coming months, because the value of having people who are from the community along with staff giving their feedback is so valuable, and it makes our communications and engagement so much better out in the community, especially with the rates notice. And it also does highlight some of the other sectors within the city that potentially aren't doing engagement. So it does highlight where we do have some gaps, I guess, across the organisation, which there is a bit of a rollout with training and education along with the staff. So yeah, it's a really great way of just stopping, looking and evaluating what is happening with other people in the community. So commend the report.
Thank you. Anyone speaking against? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
CCS 818. I probably don't want to read all of that, so the review of the elected member professional development and training policy. I'll pick up the bulk of it. The recommendation is that the revised elected member professional development and training policy as attached to this report be adopted. That the existing elected member professional development and training policy be revoked upon adoption of the revised policy. And that Council endorse the following amendments to the policy. Increase the annual allowance to $5,000 per elected member. Permit elected members to access up to $20,000 in professional development funding during their first year of office, subject to the requirements of the policy. Require all professional development to receive prior written approval from the Chief Executive Officer. Require completion of mandatory training modules prior to undertaking further professional development. Require Council approval where training is proposed within the final 3 months of an elected member's term. Sufficient budget is unavailable within the annual allocation, or the training includes interstate or international travel. Introduce enhanced reporting requirements, including quarterly public reporting of professional development undertaken by elected members. And 4, the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to make minor administrative amendments to the policy that do not alter its intent. There you go, I've got through the lot. Someone to move that, please. Councillor Clark, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a way of life for everyone involved in this role these days. I think it's important that we continue to work on developing our own professionalism in this space to ensure that we're providing the best service to the community. So I think in this space we are doing what is best for us, for our community, to make sure we're serving the best way we possibly can.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I do support the recommendation, and I think it is great that we have a guiding principles and policies around it. And when you look at the attachments, there is some benchmarking against other regional councils, and I think it's within very close proximity of what they deliver. Not having a policy can leave it to be interpreted however you like, and I do know of another mayor who's just been to Harvard, so I think it's responsible that we have a policy and some guidelines to work towards. But I do support councillors going and doing further education and training, because as you all know, we all come from all different walks and lives and backgrounds and have different skill sets. So I support the recommendation.
Anyone want to speak against? No, we'll put that to the vote. Hang on.
Just amended the recommendation because there was a spelling error under E.2, and that was annual location, which should be annual allocation. With that correction, everyone's happy to accept that.
Thank you. Did I read allocation or location?
You read allocation. I think you read allocation. That's fine.
Not vacation. Right, okay. We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
CCS 819, this has been a while in the making. Establishment of a consolidated committee of Council and OCM Agenda Advisory Committee. The recommendation is that Council establish the OCM Agenda Advisory Committee to replace the Community, Corporate and Commercial Services Committee and the Development and Infrastructure Services Committee. 2, to adopt the terms of reference for the OCM Agenda Advisory Committee as attached to this report. 3, revoke the existing terms of reference for the Community, Corporate and Commercial Services Committee and Development and Infrastructure Services Committee. 4, to determine that all elected members comprise the membership of the OCM Agenda Advisory Committee. 5, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to make minor administrative amendments to the terms of reference that do not alter their intent. And 6, advertise the updated meeting schedule for the remainder of 2026 in accordance with the requirements of the relevant legislation. Someone to move that, please. Deputy Mayor Terry. Seconder, Councillor Clark. Deputy Mayor Terry.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I have been against merging these two committees because I have been concerned about sometimes when we have a bigger development in infrastructure services committee, especially some complicated planning matters. But as it has transpired especially over the last 12 to 18 months, we haven't really had any significant planning matters come to us, and which has not led on to being an extra late meeting. So and over the last 12 to 18 months, obviously we've cancelled a number of the Development Infrastructure Services Committee meetings because there hasn't been anything on the agenda. So I have come around to the fact that it's probably a good idea. So I encourage everyone to support this. Thank you.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I speak in support of what Deputy Mayor Terry said, but also I think it's important that this is providing our council officers more time to focus on what they are doing instead of having to do 2 meetings. We're actually just focusing on one, and I think it's just going to make it a smoother process throughout. Thank you.
Anyone wish to speak against? No? Put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
That'll start in October. We'll advertise that. Doesn't mean we're not going to discuss items. It just means we're doing them all on one night. DIS 473, the Local Biodiversity Strategy. The recommendation is that Council adopt the City of Albany Local Biodiversity Strategy 2026 to 2036, and to note the Local Biodiversity Strategy Action Plan and Local Biodiversity Strategy Technical Report as supporting documents. Someone to move that, please. Councillor McLaren, a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Terry, Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll just seek your procedural advice. There's an addendum. How does that addendum get dealt with?
We've accepted that as part of the actual strategy itself. It's not part of the motion. It will be included. No, you don't.
So acceptance of the motion implies acceptance of the addendum as well.
Correct. And thank you for the question. Because that now all that clarifies.
Yes, I'm going to move that we adopt the City of Albany Local Biodiversity Strategy 2026-2036 and note that the Local Biodiversity Strategy Action Plan and Local Biodiversity Strategy Technical Report are supporting documents. This started a long time ago. Former councillor Steve Grimmer moved a motion that we consider developing a local biodiversity strategy. And at that time, I was lucky enough to be on this, join the steering committee once we established the steering committee, once we agreed to pursue that. And through that time, and most recently, I think for the last year, I've been the only councillor on that steering committee. But the steering committee went on to develop a reference group from amongst the many experts in our community about what they wanted from a local biodiversity strategy. And the city employed consultant Melanie Price to work on developing the strategy. We all saw this a couple of months ago, and I'm at that point when it was tabled and brought to the council, we determined, based on the feedback from and also 2 more eminent experts, Professor Stephen Hopper and Mr. Paul Wetton, to take another look at it. So this document should be very familiar to everyone. It has changed quite a bit. I don't know if you've had a look at the one in the attachments, but this was the most recent before the second reiteration. It was pared down to this. So the community and the experts have all said, you need to have a strategy that's workable, that will deliver, the goals that you set. It can't be too complicated. And we've definitely got down to that. We also have an action plan, which is, I think, unique to the strategies many of the strategies we've passed so far, which actually identifies who's responsible for it, for an action, and the cost implications of it, and also the time frame or the priority in which to deliver that action. So this local biodiversity strategy that we are hopefully going to pass tonight is, I think we can be very proud of it, and it is worthy of our world-class environment that we live in here in Albany. And so it's a surprise, it's great that we are doing it now, and I hope that it will take us long into the future. But the strategy itself allows for us to update those action plans as things change, because as we just talked about, things do change and science changes. And we heard from Professor Stephen Hopper only a couple months ago that granite outcrops have now been recognized on a global scale as being high level, high conservation value environments. So we do have to be light on our feet. We do have to recognize that as impacts change our environment, we may need to increase the protection of some ecosystems, and we may discover new ecosystems, because I went to the talk on peat recently, and peat is another place where we haven't even mapped where the peat is in our region. So there are many things about biodiversity that the council should be concerned about. It has a direct impact on tourism if we maintain our environment and our biodiversity. We have several citizen science projects here, which are cutting edge, in counting, for example, southern right whales and turtles and possums that are all at risk of threatened or increased extinction risk. So, City of Albany has determined to set out a strategy to protect our local biodiversity. We've had lots of input. This is a great strategy to support, and I commend it to you, and I hope that we can pass it tonight, finally.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted firstly to thank the community for pushing this, because we've heard from various members of the community over the last 4 or 5 years on the values that they have on our environment, and some are here tonight. Well, the four that are here tonight, and Professor Hopper, because it's the environment that we have here is very special. So it's great that the work that has been done to get this to the point where we hopefully will pass this strategy tonight. I just want to thank Councillor Grimmer for his work and Councillor McLaren for her work, and also the staff that have been involved in developing the policy and making some amendments to it following the May council meeting. And unfortunately, I wasn't here for that discussion, but I'm glad that the feedback that was provided at that meeting has been taken on board, and the further consultation with Professor Hopper and Paul Wetton and Robin Button have been incorporated into this new amended strategy. I think it sort of sets us up to. It's really important that we recognise the biodiversity that we have, and that we need to look after it. And with the assets that we have, there will be no doubt further discussions in relation to how we deal with a certain block of land up here, and we will no doubt hear from these people about upholding some of the values in that strategy when we deal with this block of land up here. But it's a great document. I commend it and hope everyone supports it. Thank you.
Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor McKinley.
Seems to be a habit tonight, doesn't it? Listen, I think it's a great concept. I'm not totally against the whole concept of biodiversity. I'm not an expert in it. I'm no professor. I'm far from it. It's a fantastic document. I enjoyed reading it, and it was whoever prepared that. It was an awesome job, and who had the input was fantastic work. My worry is the financial impact of that document. It's the unknown financial impact. We don't know how much we're going to have to spend. Our rates are already at a at a high level, how far can we go to support this biodiversity? How can we do that? I just think we're treading on dangerous ground with this document. There's just more levels potentially of red tape thrown in the works. You know, Albany is now 200 years old. 200 years old. How many years have we done without this document? 200 years. We haven't needed it. Do we need it going forward? Well, my answer is no. So, thank you.
Anyone wishes to speak for the motion? Anyone else wishes to speak against the motion? Councillor McLaren, you have a right of reply.
Well, thank you for considering this document in detail, and thank you, Councillor McKinley, for raising that issue about the cost of the decisions that we make. And one of the excellent strategies in this document is to seek funding to deliver some of the strategies. So, like most strategies, I might point to the emerging sport and recreation strategy. Not everything is fully funded, and some things we have to seek other support for. Look at the airport. You know, we can't deliver the airport by ourselves. We work in concert with federal and state governments and other funding sources, if we can get them, to deliver the services that we need to under our responsibilities as a council. So the I don't see that the local biodiversity strategy is going to cost us any more, and it will actually benefit us greatly to the economy. Ecotourism is an industry that we are still trying to manage, because there's an overwhelming demand for ecotourism, and we're still trying to figure out how to meet it. So we will definitely have benefits across the economy, which is our job, really, to deliver a strong economy and the services that our community needs. But who will look after this environment if it's not us? This is our call, and we need to do it, and we need to find the money to do it. So that's what I'm encouraging councillors to do. This no one else will do this but us. So let's put our faith behind the work that's been done and the strategy that's been developed, that we will find the money to deliver it.
Thank you. That closes debate. We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against?
Carried 6-2. Against Councillor McKinley and Councillor Leonetti.
DIS 479. Initiation to adopt Amendment number 5 to the City of Albany Local Planning Scheme number 2 for advertising. Let's just find. I am going to take that as read. You've had it for a week, and we'll be here for a week if I have to read it all. So I'm not going to. Obviously had quite a lot of discussion in committee about this as well. So I'm looking for a mover to the committee recommendation, and I'll give you the headline act is pursuant to Section 75 of the Planning and Development Act 2005, resolves to initiate the adoption of Amendment number 5 to replace the text in row 5 of Schedule 2. Somebody, there's a second point. Pursuant, on bottom of page 56, pursuant to Regulation 35.2 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015, resolves that the amendment is standard in accordance with Regulation 34 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulations 2015, as it satisfies the following criteria. And I think the rest of it, I think we can take as read. Someone to move that, please. Councillor McLaren, Councillor Clark, Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mayor. I drove down there the other day to have a look at this land. It's a very interesting piece of land. In fact, I think former Councillor Malcolm Trail took us for a drive and showed us the park that had been developed next to there. really just asked us to open it up for advertising, and we did have a good discussion about it in committee, and questions were raised and answered in that discussion. So I support this amendment, and I urge other councillors to do it.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is important for particularly the residents of that area. This is, I think, something that will bring something that's well needed in that space, and certainly lots of people that live over in that space have certainly indicated that they would love to see these sorts of things in the past. So I would encourage everyone to vote for it.
Anyone wish to speak against? No? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
DIS 480, Planning and Building Reports. The recommendation is that the Planning and Building Reports for July 2026 be received. Someone to move, please. Councillor Sutton. Deputy Mayor Terry. Councillor Sutton. Deputy Mayor Terry. Anyone wishing to speak against? We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
The next two items actually have confidential attachments. If anyone wants to discuss the confidential attachment details, we'll need to go behind closed doors. So anyone wish to do so? No? No, good. DIS 481, the recommendation is that the council appoint the tender as recommended by the evaluation panel as detailed in the confidential briefing note attached to this report to the relevant curbing and or asphalt supply panels under contract C26019 and accept their tendered rates. Someone to move that, please. Councillor Stevens, Councillor McKinley, Councillor Stevens. Councillor McKinley. Anyone speaking against? No, put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
Mr. Mayor, just noting that Councillor Terry, or Deputy Mayor Terry, has declared an interest in the next item and is leaving the chamber and won't participate in discussion or vote on the item. Thank you.
Thank you. Similarly, if you want to discuss any of the confidential nature of the attachment to this motion, we need to go behind closed doors. Anyone wanting to do so? Good. DIS 482 is the council. The recommendation is that the council accept the tendered rates and appoint the 18 compliant tenderers recommended by the evaluation panel to C26012, panel of suppliers, civil plant and equipment as detailed in the confidential briefing note. Someone to move, please. Councillor Sutton, seconder. Councillor Clark. Councillor Sutton.
Look, just very briefly, Mayor, this is a great result. We've got 18 people or companies, organisations that are interested. I do believe in the discussion that went on with emails. There's 2 out-of-towners, which is great because we can keep a balance. We can see the pressures they're under, and that'll affect us down the track. But this is a great result. Wasn't that long ago where we wouldn't get any tenders for a lot of things, or very, very limited. So we were a bit strapped. So, and that's when the escalation costs get away from us. So I think it's a great result. Fantastic.
Councillor Clark. Anyone speaking against? No? We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 7-0.
Shall we do the councillor's notice of motion before you leave? Do that last. Right. No. All right. No. If they want to talk about it in particular, you'll have to leave. So PR 018 is the Chief Executive Officer Performance Review. There's obviously some attachments again that are very confidential in nature. If you want to talk about those, then we will need to go behind closed doors. Is there anyone who wishes to go behind closed doors? No? Okay. The recommendation is that Council, note the completion of the Chief Executive Officer's annual performance review for the 2025-26 performance period. In accordance with the City's CEO performance review process policy and the requirements of the Local Government Act 1995. And 2, adopt the Chief Executive Officer Performance Review Committee recommended key performance indicators for the 2026-27 review period and the associated recommendations contained in the confidential CEO annual appraisal report. Someone to move that, please. Councillor Stevens, Councillor Clark. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Having been on this committee with the CEO annual review, I felt the process was really transparent. I think the consultant we had guiding the committee and then also the collected feedback from every individual councillor really helped inform what we were all feeling and understanding of the CEO and the relationship that we do have with him as a council. I think it was a very great report on the performance of the CEO. I got that sentiment around reading the report that we all believe he is doing a great job. And I think that the KPIs that we have set are realistic moving forward, and I commend the recommendation to Council.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I can only concur with the comments made by Councillor Stevens, but I suppose on the point of the work done by the CEO and his leadership of the team has been excellent. And I think that this reflects that, but it also gives very reasonable and achievable performance indicators for the next 12 months. So I would encourage everyone to support it.
Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor McLaren.
I'm not speaking against, but I have a query because I haven't been able to access the confidential attachment. So could I just ask a query about the content? Could I ask a point of clarification about the content?
The content includes the appraisal report, the remuneration recommended.
Is it unchanged from what we reviewed in committee? So it's not unchanged.
It's not unchanged from the committee recommendation at the conclusion. It's different to last year.
My question is in the KPIs that my question is about the KPIs and the KPIs that were circulated to us, that then I think the committee reviewed them. Was there a separate committee, the CEO's performance review committee? Did they change the KPIs that were discussed at the briefing about the performance review? Do they just stand?
My understanding is no. It's without going behind closed doors to examine that document. Will provide you with a copy. Have a look at it. Councillor Stevens.
Councillor McLaren, my understanding is that we met as the CEO appraisal committee prior to the strategic workshop where the CEO presented those KPIs, and the documents were amended 2 minutes before we walked into the strategic workshop. So they are, I believe, they're what you were presented and haven't changed.
I think you were referring to point 7 on KPI 1. Is that what you're asking?
I now have a copy of, and it's exactly the same as the one that was given to me, so I have no further concerns.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gilfillan. Took me a while to catch on to what you were talking about. Right, with that point clarified, is there anyone wish to speak against? No. Okay, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 8-0.
Well, the good news is you still got a job. It was carried unanimously, and Deputy Mayor Terry, the previous motion was carried unanimously as well. Thank you, and congratulations. Well deserved. Love working with you. 14, new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of council. There is none. We do have a councillor motion. Councillor McLaren, if you'd like to read that motion.
Well, this is interesting because the wording is a little bit different, but then I submitted.
Well,
but I'm hoping that it's relevant to what I.
Is it capture your intent, or do you want to change it?
It doesn't quite. I think are you familiar with this, having attended the ALGA meeting? Is this the motion that's relevant to climate change adaptation funding?
No.
Well, this is not this. I'm not moving this motion.
Okay. Did you submit a different motion in time?
Yes.
I believe you did. We'll have to dig it up. Bear with us. Can you find it in your records? Right, we have it. We'll put that to the minute secretary and put the relevant motion up before we move on.
It's quite a long motion.
We'll have to type it in. So
She could probably cut and paste it from my attachment. I've just sent you, and I could read it.
Well, we're still going to have it in front of the council, so no, we've got to have it typed up. So forward it to Deb Clark.
I did.
And we'll cut and paste it.
It's just down to the top of the second page, I think is enough.
My question has this been circulated?
No.
Well, the council actually has the right not to accept this based on not having enough time to consider it. And I think in that case, if you can't do that, then you need to talk to the attending members who will be voting at the conference to lobby that way. Voting delegates.
Thank you.
One of which will be me.
When do we determine who the voting delegates are?
They're determined. It's the deputy mayor and I.
Okay, I'll have a coffee with you.
Right. So I think we're going to have to let this slide. Okay.
Mr.
Right.
Mayor,
So,
Mr. Mayor, we'll just note that this notice, the motion which previous notice has been given, is incorrect, and that will administratively note in the minutes that this has been withdrawn.
Councillor McLaren, can you just make a statement that you're happy for this to be withdrawn, please?
I'm happy for that motion to be withdrawn in my name.
Councillor Stevens.
Can I maybe make a comment and suggestion that the strategic workshop for September, that we actually have a look at the WALGA agenda for those delegates that are going to vote. It would just give an opportunity for other councillors to actually be informed as to what's going to the WALGA meeting, so that delegates know what to do.
Mr. Mayor, happy to provide the agenda in advance of the strategic workshop, and if you'd like to discuss this particular item or other items that are on the agenda, we're happy to facilitate that. So we'll get that out, the agenda out to all elected members.
Can we just get motion spelled correctly, please? Yep. All right, no, it's just a tidy up. Okay, so that motion is now withdrawn. Thank you. There are no reports of city officers. The meeting is now closed to the public. Meeting closed at 7:57.